Welcome to C3 in This Together, 30 minutes in our own voice, a mental health awareness series. Today, our topic is mental health and the law. We will hear from experts in the field of both mental health and law, whose work has been to come alongside individuals and families whose mental health involves the law. Our hope through this series and through specifically today is to provide insights into how individuals can cope, manage, and navigate their mental health journey when it becomes involved with the law. So I'll say that again. So our hope is to provide insight to individuals and families in how to cope, manage, and navigate their mental health journey when it intersects or when it involves the law, such as the courts, the legal system, or, or law enforcement. So our guests today are Mrs. Nikia Smith-Sellers and Mr. Jonathan Tucker. Thank you both for joining us. Great.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
There we go. We had a little delay there, but good. Mr. Tucker, it's so good to have you, my friend.
Yes, thanks for the invite. Good to see you again.
Good seeing you again. Well, we do want to give a disclaimer, my friends. Due to the nature of the topic that we're discussing, which is mental health and law, and giving the current positions that our mental health experts hold, we do need to make clear, because of the topic, because of the legal implications, there'll be no specific legal cases, past or current, that will be discussed. So we want to make that clear. And the views, of course, expressed today are based on their expertise coming from our guests and not reflective of their systems that they serve or the organizations that they serve. So having said all of that, let's jump right in, my friends. Let's begin with our first question. And I'll start off with the lady on the panel, Mrs. Nikia Smith-Sellers. Tell us about your work surrounding mental health. She'll share on that question, and then Mr. Tucker, you'll follow.
Sure. Well, I am a prosecutor, so that means I am an attorney for the state. I work in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and I have been in that office for 8.5 years now. And for the bulk of that time, I have handled cases as they relate to mental health cases. For 7 years, I was the prosecutor for the accountability courts. And in those courts, I handled the behavioral health treatment court, which was formerly known as mental health court, which I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Tucker for several years in that court, as well as the veterans court, as well as the drug court. And currently, I am handling cases in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office that have competency issues. So those are cases that either there is a possible incompetency to stand trial issue going on, those hearings, the annual review hearings for either competency to stand trial if someone is found not competent to stand trial, or for folks who are not guilty by reason of insanity. I handle those annual reviews, as well as civil commitment hearings for those folks who are considered not restorable. They're incompetent to stand trial and not restorable, and the doctor believes that they need to be civilly committed and they meet those requirements. So handle those hearings, as well as forced medication hearings. They're known as cell hearings, and that is basically where the state is saying that you asking the court to involuntarily administer psychiatric medications to make someone competent to stand trial. So those are the types of cases I handle currently, and that is a new unit, the competency unit, under Madam DA Fonnie Willis.
Wow. A wealth of resource and expertise. Mr. Tucker, tell us about your work surrounding mental health.
So it's crazy because I'm getting old. I realized that. I've been in this for about 17 years now. About half my life almost So I started out in the field. First of all, my license made in the field. Started out professionally in intensive in-home therapy with adolescents. Did that for a couple of years, and then I switched to graduate teachers, which I worked alongside of high school with graduate assistants, helping the local populations see the successful graduation. And then from there, I eventually moved and worked with the Franklin County CSB, community service board, which I found myself in the court system, like the same said, in that current. And for that,
I'm sorry, Mr. Tucker, give us a little bit more volume on your end.
oh, let it hear.
There you go. Is that better, Ms. Sellers? Yeah.
Okay. So I went to accountability course in Fulton County. I was there for about 2 years, and 8 years ago, I was actually the manager over the mental health program, felony offenders with severe and persistent mental illness. And then during the pandemic, September 2020, I left to go to Fulton County to actually start their mental health program. I was there for about 18 months. And then I caught an epiphany and decided to go full-time private practice. So that's where I currently stand. So throughout my career, I've been, doing trainings and various things in the field itself, just kind of doing awareness to mental wellness and mental health.
Wow. Again, a wealth of expertise. And we're so honored that both of you have decided to join us and to share with our friends and how to navigate this aspect of mental health, which is often not talked about, right? When mental health intersects with the law. Let's move to our next question. Having done this work and the expertise that you have, what would you say to someone or a loved one whose mental health has encountered the law? So again, we'll start with Mr. Tucker for this, but what would you say to someone or a loved one whose mental health has encountered the law, the courts, the legal system, or law enforcement? And we know the statistics, particularly here in Georgia, speak to what's happening with incarceration, and the list goes on and on. We could give a lot of statistics, but for the sake of time, we do know that this is something that our friends at some point may have encountered. So what would you say to someone or a loved one who's had this experience or this encounter? Help us with that, Mr. Tucker, and then Mrs. Sellers, you'll follow.
It's going to sound sort of contradictory, but one of the first things I would say is don't take it personally, which is hard to, not take it personally when it's involving you. But what I find is oftentimes, the courts or the law is seen as which, we know the different things that recently. But sometimes we are involved with the law, we think it's about us. And so we get offended. And so the way we respond to the law is based on a me against them type persona. And that's not necessarily the case. The courts, the law enforcement officers, they have certain criteria and certain rules that have to follow out. And so regardless of what you know is going on with you, they don't know that. There's certain procedures they have to follow through. And so oftentimes we feel like you're doing something against me, this is a personal attack. So no, sometimes there's processes in place that they have to carry out to make sure they're operating forward. So even though it's involving you, don't necessarily take it as a personal attack against you. And the other piece I've always encouraged clients is be an advocate. Sometimes you're not in a place where you're the best advocate for yourself. When I used to work for accountability courts, you have, security and law enforcement officers in the building where you're a client. And while you might have been wrong, oftentimes you might not be good. But if you find someone with a similar stature higher, that's how you get your voice across and the sounds across people as an attorney. You don't represent yourself. You have someone who knows the legal system, who can sort of speak in ways you can't, and they'll be heard. So I would say definitely don't take it as a personal attack. Usually, when you serve law, it's called there's some kind of violation. And so don't be reactionary, but just go through the process and then find an advocate in the meantime, someone who will support you and help your story be told. So instead of making things worse, putting up more charges or whatnot, you're actually finding the path of least resistance to get the best resolution.
Wow. And Mrs. Sellers, before you jump in, I'll tell you what I'm taking away. Don't take it personal. And I like what you said. Sometimes we are not our best advocate for ourselves. So we need to find someone that can be an advocate for us. Wow, wow, this is amazing. Mrs. Sellers, what's your response to that?
I definitely agree. Not to take it personal. I apologize for the background noise. Um, as Mr. Tucker know, I think we both have twins. So those are my twins in the background.
I've got a 2-year-old toddler who has been knocking at the door. So we all know this journey.
I sent mine away. I was like, go on the other side of the house. I already know it not been fun.
Yes, but I definitely agree. Finding an advocate, and that so I deal with it as an attorney. I deal with it, from the legal point of view. And let's talk about when the inception, when you may encounter law enforcement. I don't, whether you're a victim or considered the accused person. The person who is a victim may be a family member. When you reach out to police to, ask for an officer who is CIT or certified, meaning that they have gone through the crisis intervention training, letting people know that this is a person who is in crisis. So prayerfully and hopefully they will act accordingly and address the situation accordingly. And then even when you are, after that initial interaction, if that is what is happening and if there is an arrest, to your defense counsel, whether that be a public defender. In Fulton County, I really think that the public defender's office has a very strong office. There are some excellent attorneys there. I know sometimes people think that, the public defender they aren't real attorneys. They are real attorneys. And they have resources, meaning they have resources. They have social workers that work in their office sometimes, and they may sometimes know the lay of the land a little bit better than a private attorney may. Not to take anything away, but they know the lay of the land. So sometimes that's your first encounter. You may not have a private attorney at that first appearance. So you want to tell your public defender or that attorney representing you, this is what is going on with me, and be upfront and personal there and open, because this is not the first time that they've heard something like this or they've experienced something like this. So this is, while your situation may, you encountering the law may be a first time event for you, more than likely it is not a first time event for the people who are in this process. So it may not be something that shocks them. You think it's shocking, but it's something that they may encounter every day. So they will have the tools to sort of help you manage the process. And also, if your family members are victims, that's when sort of the DA's office or the solicitor's office, that prosecutor steps in because they help to support those victims. And in those offices, there are victim witness advocates. And so as a victim, you want to speak to that victim witness advocate and tell them what's going on. This person was in crisis. This is what's going on. This is my son. This is my daughter. This is, my cousin, my brother, my sister, what have you. And this is a relationship and this is what is going on in this. And if you can, provide that information, because those victim witness advocates, many times they have backgrounds in behavioral health. So they may be counselors, so they're actually equipped to handle that. And they can talk to the attorneys to say, hey, this is what was going on. And help to give some shape and some meat to that case that is developing. But again, definitely like Mr. Tucker says, don't take it personal, and get that advocate. That is critical.
Well, thank you both for that. And, I'm leaning into this, particularly, many of us, we serve the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, people of color. And we know that there's been a history for various reasons of distrust as it relates to law enforcement, the legal system. So, we want to be honest in that, right? We want to put that out there. We are aware of that there's a level of distrust. We talk about racial trauma, microaggression, the list, racial fatigue. That's a whole nother topic in itself. But we do want to let people know that we are aware of that in our communities, right, there's a level of distrust. We understand what the narrative has been, but our hope is that as you hear from individuals who are experts in the field, it will give you a new take and allow you to see through new eyes and give you the options that's out there to help you navigate your experience. Let's move to the next question. What do you want people to know about their rights, access to care, available resources? Again, when their mental health encounters the law, things such as, and you've mentioned this, you both have worked in this area and currently work. You've mentioned mental health and accountability courts. Thank you, Mrs. Sellers, for mentioning the crisis intervention trained officers, which is the work that I do at NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I get to train police officers in recognizing and being aware whenever there's a mental health need. So talk to us about some of those resources that we might not know that's available. Again, mental health courts, accountability courts, CIT trained officers, psychiatric advance directives. And I actually learned that from Mr. Tucker. In one of your sessions, you taught me as a clinician and as someone working at NAMI about psychiatric advance directives. So, Mr. Tucker, would you take that away? And then we will go with Mrs. Sellers on that question.
Absolutely. I think it's in the question. What I want you to know is that you have rights. It's really that simple. You have rights. Let's start there because a lot of people, of course, we just combobulated. A lot of us don't know what the system is. And we have what we see on TV, our heard about friends. So we feel like we just have the subject to whatever happens to us. We don't have a say in it. We reject. It's like our attorney, people get the legal guidance. And so individuals don't know their rights and they feel at times that their attorney is giving them the best possible outlet. And that's not always the case. So just starting out with you have rights. I love what Ms. Sellers said that, when you get in the court system, oftentimes it's been expensive, which means there are probably programs and items and things in place that people have talked about discussed. They might not currently be where we want to be, but it's not the first time it's happening. So there's probably solutions and people who have discussed these things. Which I always tell my clients, what I see is that people get frustrated by the amount of time they do. And so they're willing to sign up for anything that's getting off the fence. It's a lot of time they're believing their rights, but they're not really seeing what's out there for the sake of getting out as soon as they can. But then on the back end, that's where it takes them up. And so it's understanding, like I said, access to care. There's treatment out there, whether it's getting medication in the jail. That treatment can happen in the jail. If stabilization needs to happen, you can get stabilized in the jail. We have different places that we go and take people to phono or use insurance. So it's important to understand the resources we have available. Like mental health courts, huge advocate for mental health courts because we all have situations in life that happen. And we never know what could be the crises that happen in our lives that cause us to, go into a place of depression. And from that place, act out behaviors that specific courts. That's why I love the courts, the fact that have you got legal charges? There are people who understand that if you are correctly taking care of your mental health, that's going to. And so here's a program that allows you to sort of restore your life with your second chance, also helping you take care of your mental health. It's it's really, especially if you know that you have rights. We might not know all the things that are out there, but there are people who are connected, whether it's social workers, advocates, friends, peers. There are people who have been giving in dirt who are creating different pathways. So starting with what are my rights? What do I have access to?
Wow.
That's the simple question. And if no one knows, it can speak to someone who might, but just those very basic questions, what rights to that? And being forthcoming about your mental health. I'm diagnosed with bipolar disorder. What's available to you?
Wow.
Speaking to what your emergency is and then seeing what programs are in place that align to help you get the service you need to make sure you that.
Wow, I love that. I have rights, you have rights, right? It may seem so simple, but we want people to know that, right? And I know when you're involved with a crisis, you've encountered the law, there's so much that is happening with you, right? Your internal working model, your internal world, externally, a lot is happening. But we want to remind you that you are, or your loved one, you do have rights. And I like what you said, Mr. Tucker. It's as simple as asking, what's available to me, what's out there, right? And I will say this here, right? Put your advocates to work. You be your own advocate, first of all. Mr. Sellers talked about that you have advocates on the other side. But my friends, you be your own advocate, and you make people listen to you, right? You have the right, like Mr. Tucker says, you have rights, and you make them listen to you and ask the question, what's available to me? What's available to my loved one? And share your diagnosis. Really good in that. Mrs. Sellers, help us with this question.
Mr. Tucker did a really great job in answering that. Um, I will just add that if you are in custody, meaning in jail, then there are responsibilities that the system has, that they have to you. If you have mental health issues. So you do have the right to that medication that should be provided to you. And you should be receiving that. And so to again advocate for yourself, but also family members or whomever who are part of your team, part of your village, that they are advocating for you as well for what you need if you are in that situation, happen to be in custody. Um, yes. And also note to again trust the process, but again just please ask questions. Ask questions, and I know sometimes they feel silly or what have you, or something you should think you should already know, but the legal system is a very, I mean, it is a convoluted system. And I will just say that, just in all honesty, I didn't understand it all until I went to law school, and I was a real grown, a real grown woman when I went to law school. And not really fully understanding like the criminal justice system until that point. Um, and so, what I do understand that it is navigating it is extremely difficult. There are no dumb questions. Your attorney is, they are working for you, whether you are paying them or not, but they are working for you, and it is their responsibility to be a zealous advocate for you.
Well, I love that, right? They are working for you. And let me add to this as you both were speaking. The word that came to my mind was competency, right? We want to make sure that, again, depending on your situation, but Mrs. Sellers, you mentioned they're working for you, but you want to advocate for someone that's competent, and not just competent by training, but even those who are culturally competent. And I'll go even a little step further in what we're calling now is cultural humility, right? Trying to align yourself, and maybe you could help me with that. If that works in the system, right, in the legal system, where people can really try to align themselves with people who are competent, by training culturally, and cultural humility. This idea of people who will ask, "Tell me your story, tell me your history." So that came to my mind, and the other thought that comes to my mind is, as I've been sharing, is we don't want to demonize or criminalize mental health, and so often that's what happens in the system, in the culture. And our hope through our time together is that we would really move past that and create a new narrative. Well, as we begin to wrap up, a couple more questions, our final questions here. What do you want people to know about managing our mental health and the importance of mental health awareness? So, Mrs. Sellers, would you help us with that? And then Mr. Tucker, you can follow suit. But what do you want to say to people about mental health awareness? Of course, what was once a taboo topic has now become a topic of discussion. But help us with the importance of managing our mental health, whether you've encountered the legal system or you've not encountered the legal system. What do you want us to know, Mrs. Sellers?
And managing your mental health. I think, well, one of the things that um, I think they, I think it is definitely realized that mental health is an issue for every single person that is walking the earth. One of the things that the state bar does is that we receive, I think, 8 sessions um, of of mental health sessions, with a counselor. We receive that automatically as a member of the bar, as well as in the workplace. We have those that employee assistance program that provides that mental health care. And we have so many sessions as state employees as well as county employees. And one of the things that our office does encourage, because each and every day we deal with so much, from this pandemic to just just what is happening in the news, from Buffalo, where you say you will be speaking a little bit later this evening, to what just happened in Texas yesterday. It affects each and every one of us in our daily lives. We all have families. We have all of these different layers of who we are, and I think that if we have to be connected to our mental health. Am I okay today? And also being kind to others, leading with that, really asking, like, how are you doing? Are you, when someone was responding to you a little bit funky, like, all right, what's really going on? How are you doing? What's going on? Just leading with kindness. And leading with understanding that each and every one of us needs some grace, and it is but for that grace that we stand here mentally strong. So I know that in the work that I do now, I do give thanks for that mental health, but I know that at any moment, that can change. So just being aware and conscious of that, and allowing that grace for others as well.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Tucker?
That's the question I really think that the same. It's the same with mental health. There's a reason why they say take the cut off the head first. Once that's disconnected, the body is discombobulated. Same thing with us. We have to take care of our head, because if we're not aware and taking care of mental health, we're killing ourselves. If we're not okay, we need to get to express that we talk about. And the point is mental health awareness, I go back to what you said about it's oftentimes demonized. Understanding that it's not your shame. There's shame behind having a diagnosis. Some cultures don't even accept the mental diagnosis. And so you're carrying the shame all the while you're not getting better, and the time is getting worse. And you're not functioning at full capacity. And so you find yourself not to place in life where you think you should be, or you're not functioning optimal conditioning. It's important to be aware of how these things impact. One of the things I did, I've helped out a local college basketball team. And I tell them, I said, think about it. You're at the free throw line. The ankle is aching, the shoulders aching. And it's the last couple of seconds of the game, you are trying to make a free throw. That's a lot of stuff we're mentally trying to go through. And if you miss your shot, you can take it. But you have to be aware of what's going on in your body. You have to be aware of the environmental factors so that you can perform at your best level, or know, I need to take myself out. That's why I love recently, when the gym decided to shut down. I got the systems. I would like to make more records, but if I go out there and perform, this could be a life or death. Wow. If she didn't have that awareness, who knows how bad it could go. She's in there twirling and spinning, and if she is not well mentally, there's damage there. And so same thing with our day-to-day. We might not come on a big stage in massive, but just going to work. There's a reason why I just struggle out there. What's that about? It's not just push through. I was reading an article the other day, and someone was saying how we should change this whole perfect attendance thing, where we've encouraged people to push through sickness and we're not doing our best. And so we learn to not value what our body, what our mind is telling us, just for the sake of like, I got perfect attendance. But no, you got to have the awareness that sometimes me staying home is more important than me going to go get 25% of my best ability in the workplace. I had coworkers that they talk, use your mental health care. You got to know when you're at your breaking point, you have to sort of pull back because you don't want to push yourself. And then, the mind is a fragile thing. Once it snaps, it's hard to get back. And if you're not aware of your threshold, you'll even push beyond that and find yourself dealing with way more damage on your back end. So it's really important to know what works and know yourself so that you don't push beyond what's healthy limitation.
Wow. Thank you so much to you both. A wealth of resource, experts in the field. Uh, but I love that you're experts, and this just came to me. You're experts, but we hear your heart, we hear your passion. And I think so often that's the missing link and the missing piece, if you will, to the puzzle is that in our communities, we don't feel like we can marry the two, right? We can integrate the two, which is experts who have a heart and who care for our communities. So thank you both for being experts, for putting in the time, for putting in the work to know your craft. But thank you for caring for our communities. And we speak well wishes and blessings to you and your family. And you continue to take care of yourself because we need you. We need you both. We need people like you who care for our communities. Well, my friends, as we begin to wrap up, Mrs. Sellers and Mr. Tucker, how can people reach out to you? Don't give us your cell phone number or your home address. Don't give us your bank account. None of that. But how can we publicly reach out to you if we are in need of help? Mr. Tucker, would you just tell us where we can reach out to you?
Yeah, if I give you my bank account. I have a website, sandboxleadershipinstitute.com. I'm also listed on psychology.
Okay, great. And if you wouldn't mind just emailing that to me, and I can get it into our script as well. And Mrs. Sellers, again, we know that you work for the judicial court, so we are mindful about what information that you can hand out. But is there anything publicly that you can hand out that we can reach out to you?
Absolutely. I'm a public servant. So my email address is Nikia, Nikia, .sellers, SELLERS, @FultonCountyGA.gov. And my number is 404-612-4964.
Great. So we'll get that on the screen. My friends, thank you so much for joining us. We do want to remind you for more resources about mental health, those who are watching and who will be listening, we want to remind you to visit NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI.org. That will come on the screen. Also, want to personally invite you to visit our website, c3inthistogether.com. We've taken the time to put many resources surrounding mental health in one place that you can navigate that. Also, if you were impacted by this video, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, C3 in This Together. Please share this video, comment, let us know how you've been impacted by this video. Again, our hope is that together we can bring hope to others. We also want to remind you, as always, take our 21-day thankfulness and NextGen hope challenges. Thank you for joining us, my friends, and we will see you next time for another segment of 30 Minutes in Our Own Voice. Mrs. Sellers, thank you again. Mr. Tucker, thank you again.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate you both. We'll see you soon, my friends.
Bye. Have a great evening.